Welcome to r/RedditRevenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. And today we have 3 great stories. So subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. Coworker had run to the manager to throw me under the bus. The second story. Associate director tried to erase the evidence and pin all the nonsense on me to save face. The third story. I'd walk over near liars and tell as many people near there as I could. I did my anti-word-of-mouth advertising. And the first story is, I cover your mistakes and you snitch to the boss on mine? Okay then. I had worked for the same retail outlet for some years before deciding to go to university. When I decided, the company happily transferred me to the store in the city I was attending uni. When I started, I got on well with one of the employees there called Jim. Jim had been at the store for a year or two and was vying for the supervisor position that was meant to be coming up. The issue was that Jim made a lot of small mistakes. Nothing crushingly major if they were caught early enough, but could be if not noticed. Because we were friends, and I had management level clearance because of my experience, I often would fix these mistakes before they got to management. I would let Jim know, show him what he had done wrong and never speak of it again. One day I was crushingly hungover. I hadn't realized I was working next day until late into the night, and was suffering because of my lack of organization. Due to being completely clocked out mentally, I made an error when taking payment from a customer. Instead of charging them $150 for their item, I charged them $15. I noticed the mistake, apologized to the customer, and refunded the difference. They were very understanding and I thought all was good. Next day, the manager pulls me into the office. They discussed the mistake and why it happened. They were very nice and fair, and as this was my first error in months, just told me to be more careful, especially if I was hungover. They even told me to tell them if I was hungover, and they could stick me in the back room, due to it being such a rare occurrence. The only issue was that the manager wasn't in the day before. It was me, Jim, and the supervisor. Me and the supervisor got on well, and when I asked him about it, he told me that he got called into the manager's office as well, and got told off for not telling him about the mistake. His argument was that the mistake was rectified without issue, so he didn't see the point. Which left Jim. I was peeved. I had covered his A so many times, and at the first chance he had run to the manager to throw me under the bus. So I stopped. Every day something would pop up. Little errors when counting tills or selling items. Stockroom errors, final report errors. I just stopped fixing them. I also found out that the supervisor had been doing the same, fixing little mistakes and retraining Jim, rather than going through disciplinary procedures. After a brief discussion, he stopped as well. Our monthly meeting was delightful. Due to the dramatic increase in errors, we had missed our bonus requirements by a fraction, and the manager was peeved. This was my F-up as well, because I lost out on some cash due to being petty. The manager provided the errors report, and in a staff of 12 people, Jim made up just shy of 40% of all errors. He got roasted in front of everyone. This happened for a couple months before Jim realized the supervisor position was a no-go and moved on to another job. The next story is, tried to throw me under the proverbial bus, ran herself over. I was building an online training module at work that's intended to teach existing users how to work a new process. It has interactive elements, quizzes, segments to work through, a few sample scenarios, etc. Now, we'd recently gotten a new associate director, who from what I can tell advanced through the company by throwing other people under the bus. So after I have the first draft of the module done, it gets sent out for the usual round of testing, and there are of course a couple of things that needed to be corrected. I build the module off the notes the subject matter experts leave me, and a few things inevitably get lost in translation. But this new associate director just rips it to shreds, complaining that it's completely incomprehensible, needs to go into much greater detail, asking questions about nearly every individual mouse click in the sample scenarios, and overall stating that it's impossible to follow. The thing is, this module is intended for our finance department, for people who have a background in finance, and who have already been trained on how to use our internal software. She's a training services associate director with a teaching background. I push back and try explaining this to her in a million different ways, but she's having none of it. So I have to go back to the subject matter experts with her 20 pages worth of criticism. And at first they think I'm joking. I had to forward her email before they finally believe me. So for the next 2 weeks we're going over every nuance, including readdressing everything that was covered during their 3-week classroom training. How to set up their network drives, how to set up Outlook, including things as nuanced as, if you don't know how to set up your email signature, click here. I mean really basic stuff that has nothing to do with what the module was originally supposed to teach. But I now had to include it all because our new associate director couldn't find the on switch if you stapled her finger to it. This wastes my time, the subject matter expert's time, and time spent re-recording all the voice work. If you've done voice work in the past, you know you never get it in one take. After it's all done, I send it back out for review and approval, and the associate director simply doesn't respond. A week passes. The finance director takes an interest in why this module is almost a month overdue. I go to forward the associate director's email again, except now I can't find it. Odd, seeing as how I have a hoarding problem when it comes to email. I check with one of the subject matter experts I was working with. He can't find it either. Turns out none of us can find it. It's gone. So I check with a friend of mine in IT, who after a little detective work, discovers that a week ago someone did a compliance delete on the Exchange server. This is basically a seek and destroy for messages, meeting certain criteria. In this case, a specific phrase she used in her email. I start digging through Outlook trying to find particular emails related to this that might be used to defend my actions, and they're all gone. Inbox, sent items, deleted items. Every last one of them. Any email containing that particular phrase anywhere in it. This kind of thing is normally used by admins to mass delete spam or phishing emails from all users at once. Except in this case, someone apparently deleted emails that showed evidence of her awful decisions. My friend in IT can smell a juicy story a mile away, and was very interested in seeing where this went. She recovered the deleted emails and I promptly saved them to a flash drive. For the next few days, every time I had any email with this associate director's name on it, even unrelated stuff, you never know how something might fit together. I saved a copy to the flash drive. I informed the subject matter experts to do the same, and we started building our offline evidence locker. I didn't want to blow the lid on it just yet. I wanted to see if my suspicions were correct. Maybe a lifetime of watching spy movies and cop dramas had corrupted my thinking. Maybe there was another explanation. Who knows? It could happen. I'm not God. I don't know everything. I'll play defense. So after several weeks in total trying to appease this associate director's unquenchable thirst for irrelevant details, and then getting ignored for a week, she finally publishes it and sends it to the finance director to approve it so it can go live. Woo! Except the module, which was supposed to be a 30-minute online course, now contained 3 hours of content and went down several irrelevant rabbit holes that had been deemed critical supporting information. As an analogy, imagine designing a training module to teach a nurse how to enter some new CPT codes, and being told you have to teach him how to read too, because he might not know what words are. That's how much BS was rammed into this thing. And the finance director of course hated it, and was surprised that such a rambling mess of a module would come from me of all people. So he calls a meeting with me and the associate director on Tuesday to get some answers, and sure enough she immediately tried to distance herself from it. Tried to paint it as she made a couple of suggestions, and I clearly went way overboard. How I must have sent her a different version that she approved, and switched them afterwards. That's not even possible. It would get thrown back into draft status. She kept trying to talk over me as I voiced my defense, and to his credit the finance director finally just muted her so I could speak. And boy did I. I explained everything. I shared my screen, popped in my flash drive, and opened my copies of the emails that had supposedly been deleted. Every email exchange where she complained about the material, I pushed back, and she flat out ordered me to build the module in the way I did. She abruptly left the meeting and went offline. The finance director asked if I could send him a copy of all relevant files, and as I did so I told him they might not be there later, and then explained what I had learned about someone in IT, using the compliance delete. He assures me he'll look into it, and the SH immediately hit the fan. The associate director never logged back on. There was a massive internal audit where people from her previous departments were asked to provide statements. Leadership tried to keep it hush-hush, but you just can't keep something that big under wraps. I don't know the specific what's and hows, but the associate director and one of the IT managers had both left the company to pursue the next stage of their careers, and we sincerely wish them the best. I don't really do the social media thing, but over the next few days, as the rumor mill did what rumor mills do, I heard their SH absolutely blew up, and it came out that the associate director and that IT manager were having an affair. Now this all went down about a month ago, but as I wrote this post I thought to check online court records. Both are now facing divorces, filed by their respective spouses. So yeah, there's a void in my direct leadership, in IT's leadership, and the entire IT department is getting a shakedown by information security to determine if there were any other leaks. I spent some time reflecting on why this whole series of events happened, and my best guess is she wanted to make a grand entrance by spearheading this masterwork training module that covered every possible scenario and contained any and all information anyone could possibly want. Then as she started to realize how wasteful, rambling, and unnecessary it was, she realized that her grand entrance would be a grand faceplant. So she tried to erase the evidence, and pin all the nonsense on me to save face, but inadvertently set in motion the events that would expose her little arrangement with the IT manager, taking it up the A in order to cover her A, I guess. The last story is, lie to get back my $75. Watch me walk customers away from your business for years. Many moons ago, I did automotive locksmith work. It was usually for cars that were impounded, repoed, or people lost their keys. I'd make my rounds once or twice a week to the storage lots, and there would be a list waiting for me. One bank lot had a maroon Ford Tempo. I picked the ignition, took the lock out and put a new lock in. Then I made keys for the doors and trunk. I finished up the rest of the lot and left. Back at the office, we send the bank our bill and get on with our day. About 2 weeks later, a bank rep, Ed, calls and asks if I could take care of the customer for the locksmithing. I asked why. He said the guy was claiming damages and refused to pay. Note, the bank gets to charge the owner all the costs for repo, including locks and keys. I asked Ed, what damages? Usually people get confused because we changed the ignition locks, and their original keys don't work, but we gave them 2 new keys with the new lock. Their door and trunk keys still worked. Ed said, the guy said you broke his rear window defroster. I was laughing. I said, Ed, you know that making keys has nothing to do with his rear defroster, right? His defogger was broke before the bank took the car, and he was using it to get out of paying for the keys. Ed agreed, but said his boss was tired of hearing the a-hole scream. Yes, he said that. I told Ed not to worry about the $75. They gave us lots of work. Please keep sending it. Ed was happy. His boss was happy. I was not. I hate when people lie to get over on you, but what could I do? Ed sent the guy to my office, and I gave him a check for $75. I also told the smug effer I knew he was lying, that there was no way making keys for his car damaged his rear defogger. His answer, the bank doesn't know that. Now I hated him, but what could I do? What could I do? I forgot about it for about 6 months, then went to pick up takeout at our usual Friday night place, called A's. Then I saw it. 3 doors down, the lying lock guy was opening a new restaurant. He had big signs and billboards in the shopping center, complete with his name and photos on the signs. Now I knew what I could do. I went to his restaurant about a week after it opened. My ex wanted to try it out. I was hoping to run into the a-hole, but he stayed in the kitchen the whole time. Probably for the best. I more than likely would have done something he'd regret. Well, the food wasn't bad, but it was nowhere near as good as the other place in the shopping center. A's, the one we got Friday night takeout from. So I made it a point to tell everyone heading into his restaurant that A's was better. Every Friday night I'd tell anyone heading into Liars if they wanted good food, go to A's. I used to go into A's and sit at the bar and have a beer and place the takeout order. Now I walked into A's, ordered and waited outside near Liars. But it wasn't just Friday nights I did this. There was an Office Max in the same center. When I would go there, I'd walk over near Liars and tell as many people near there as I could. Then my kids started taking karate in the same center. Yep, I did my anti-word-of-mouth advertising. I think Liars' restaurant lasted 2, maybe 3 years. I made it a point to talk them down every chance I could. I know they lost way more than $75. I was petty, and I got my revenge. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.